We're back. This time we're taking a look at the Borg Tactical Cube 001. This was the final OP prize for the Resistance is Futile OP event. And we'll get right in and take a look. We have our standard Borg Tactical Cube dial. Normal Borg movement. It's exactly the same as the rest of the tactical cubes as far as movement goes. And there's our Borg Tactical Cube. You can see the movement there. Up to a 4 forward or spin, all the way back to a 3 reverse. Kinda nice. There's our named Tactical Cube 001. 6 attack, 0 agility, 9 hull, 8 shield, very nice. 2 Borg upgrades, a tech upgrade, 2 weapon upgrades, and a crew upgrade for 46 points. You have target lock, scan, and regenerate. And the ability is when defending during the compare results step, you may discard up to 3 of your Borg upgrades, cancel 1 hit or crit for each upgrade you discard with this card. It's a last ditch effort if you're about to blow up anyway, sacrificing your Borg upgrades to cancel out some hits or crits may save you. Don't see it getting a lot of use other than that. It's a little steep of a price to pay, but definitely worth doing if you're about to lose your ship. It's a generic Borg Tactical Cube. Use 1 shield and 1 weapon slot for 44 points. For captains, we get yet another iteration of the Borg Queen. This one's a captain skill of 9, 1 elite talent for 6 points. At the start of the game, place 9 drone tokens on the card. Add +1 Borg upgrade slot to your bars. Nice. As an action, you can target a ship at range 1, spend 6 drone tokens, and disable 2 upgrades of your choice on the target ship. 6 drones for 2 upgrades seems a little steep and a cost of an action. There's a lot of ways to regenerate drones now. And there was a card that came with the assimilated Galer class that lets you swap around your drones. So there's ways to get them back. Dropping your 9 skill captain down to a 3 just to disable a couple of upgrades though seems really steep of a cost. The only way I see this being used is if they have one of those broken combos that's just ridiculously powerful. You can disable it off the get-go. Having to be in range 1 also really limits it. I don't see this version of the Borg Queen getting too terribly much use over the other ones, which I just think are better all around. Then we have our generic drone. Starts with 1 token for 0 points. For our elite talents, we have command interface for 5 points. After you roll a die for any reason, you can discard this card to reroll that die once. This upgrade costs 5 points more if it purchased for anything other than a Borg ship. Useful 5-point discards I'm not a huge fan of. I say that all the time. At the same time, this could be used to save you from a untimely warp core breach early on in the game. Things like that. Definitely has its uses. If you had 5 extra points to spend on it, it's a gamble whether to take it or not. Can definitely save you in the right situation, but at the same time, 5 points for a discard, that's 5 points you're not spending somewhere else on something that can be used the entire game. So, take it or leave it, that one's kind of up to you. For our crew, we have Data, 4 points. As an action, you can target a ship at range 1 to 2, spend 1 drone token to disable the captain card on that ship, and then place a scan token beside your ship as a free action. Definitely an interesting ability. Can knock out a higher captain. The fact that it takes place in the action phase is nice because then when it comes to the combat phase, you've knocked out their captain. And so they're fighting with a captain skill of 1. So definitely a cool idea. It can drop basically the target of your choice down below your normal tactical drones that are running at like a 3 or 4. So you're going to be able to shoot before them. Definitely useful for 4 points. I like it. For weapon upgrades, we have the Borg missile. 6 points, 4 attack, range 1 to 2. Disable this card to perform the attack. Target ship does not sustain normal damage from this attack. Instead, you place an auxiliary power token by the ship and destroy one of its active shields for each hit or crit result. Target ship does not roll defense dice against this attack. Can only be purchased for a Borg ship. I liked these back when they were ruled that they give you an auxiliary power token for every hit. Now that they've been added, so no matter, even if all 4 hit or more, depending on how you got your bonuses set up, you still only give 1 auxiliary power token. They're not nearly as good. The fact that they can still take out shields is nice. They don't do any hull damage, which is something to keep in mind. They're strictly for taking out shields and giving auxiliary power. Other than that, they still have their usefulness. The fact that they don't get to roll defense dice against it makes it nice. I don't see it getting a lot of use on these larger ships with 6 attack. I think I'd rather do my normal 6 die attack than a 4 die that only affects shields. But at the same time, on one of the smaller ships, I can definitely see this getting used. Something like the scout cubes. I can see this getting used on those where they can move in quick, knock out some shields, possibly give them an auxiliary power token, and make their maneuvering a little more predictable for the next turn, because you know they're going to try to pull that green to get that off of there. Next up, we have the cutting beam. 8 points, 10 attack, range 1. I really want to like this weapon. It's very thematic. It's very powerful, but the amount of requirements you need just to get the thing off. Not to mention the fact that if you're playing by the new suggested play rules, you technically can't even field this on a normal Borg ship. You have to have the target ship held in a tractor beam, which we'll get to when we get to the tractor beam upgrade. And then you disable this card to perform the attack. Can only be purchased for Borg ships. The fact that you have to have a tractor beam lock on them, you have to be within range 1 of them, and it's also a disable on top of that. 10 attack dice seems like a lot, but you're spending 8 points on this upgrade, you're spending another 7 points on the tractor beam upgrade, just to be able to use this, and then meeting all the requirements in order to actually use it just makes it, unfortunately, not all that effective. I wish there was a way they could make it a little bit more useful, but as it stands now, it's a really cool fluff card, but you're probably never going to see it in play. For Borg upgrades, we have the Borg tractor beam for 7 points. This is the other half of the combo needed in order to fire the cutting beam. The tractor beam on its own isn't that bad. Target a ship at range 1, place a Borg tractor beam token beside that ship and the corresponding one next to your ship. And there's a rules card that explains what to do with the tractor beam tokens. As soon as the ship receives a Borg tractor beam token, you disable 2 of their active shields. If they were cloaked, remove the cloak and raise all of its shields except for 2. That right there is a extremely nice ability. The fact that you can force ships to decloak is probably the reason to bring the tractor beam. While the ship has the Borg tractor beam, it cannot raise its shields or cloak. Another one that's nice. So those 2 that you disable stay disabled. During the planning phase, the owner may not select a maneuver with a number greater than 2. So it limits their movements, lets you maneuver to stay in range. This is probably the only thing that may help you get off the cutting beam, is knowing that they're only going to be able to pull a 2. If you know the dial of the ship, you might know where they might be going. It's a matter of guessing their maneuver, unless you have something to let you look at it. At the end of the activation phase, if the ship's no longer within range 1 of the ship with the corresponding Borg tractor beam token, you remove the token from both ships. The tractor beam is definitely a useful weapon. 7 points is a little pricey, but for the ability to decloak ships, it definitely has its uses. Limited to range 1. Do you want to spend an action to do this on a bigger ship, or do you want to make use of that 6 attack? Definitely see the tractor beams being more useful on the smaller, like the scout ships, who can fly in there, use these to knock out a cloak, disable some shields, and really cause havoc, so your larger ships, your spheres and your cubes, can go in and mop up. Next we have interplexing beacon for 3 points. When attacking a ship at range 3 during the modify attack dice step, you may disable this card, spend up to 2 drone tokens to re-roll a number of attack dice equal to the number of drones you spent with this card. No ship can be equipped with more than 1 interplexing beacon. Basically, you're spending up to 2 drones to re-roll up to 2 dice. Definitely nice if you have ways to regenerate or swap around your drone tokens to get them back, because you don't want to drop your captain down too far. But it can be make or break on a winning shot of the game. Definitely worth spending a couple drones for that extra reroll, even if it is only a couple dice. Lastly, we have Borg Maturation Chamber. I cannot say that word today. For 6 points, as an action, you can discard this card and add a number of drone tokens to your captain card until you reach your captain's starting number of drone tokens. Can I exceed your captain's starting number of drone tokens? Basically, this is a regen all. If you use the Queen's ability to spend 6 drone tokens, or you're using the interplexing beacon to spend some drone tokens, this will bump you right back up to your max. Definitely a nice way to regenerate. 6 points is a little steep, but the fact that you can regenerate to your maximum number in one shot, it makes it worth it to me. For the rest of the expansion, we have our 8 shield tokens. Target lock X1. 2 disables, scan token. Borg tractor beam token C this time. Critical and auxiliary power token. And then our various 1 to 9 Borg drone tokens with the 2 starting ones for our 2 captains. We have the additional rules card for the tractor beams. There's an additional rules card for general Borg rules talking about regenerate and the spin maneuver, and about overlapping other ships, how Borg upgrades and drone tokens work. If you're not familiar with drone tokens, go back and look. I think it was the Borg Sphere video had a tutorial in there about that. But it's much easier to understand if you actually see it in use rather than trying the way they describe it in text here. For the cube, I forgot to do a close-up of it in my last video on the tactical cubes, but it looks like the same model externally. Definitely needs a paint job, at least a wash to bring out the paneling and these armor plates on the side. But the plastic is much thinner on this, and you can see just a hair there. And I'll hold it up to the light and show you. Trying to show this without washing out the camera too much, but if you can see there, the new version of the tactical cube here is made of a much thinner plastic. I haven't cracked it open yet, but I don't think it has that white plastic. I think it's actually clear, but it's so much thinner it lets the light right through. So when I go to light this one up, I'm not going to have to do the sanding and grinding that I did with the other one to get the light to pass through. It already does. I think it's actually, like I said, a transparent plastic in there, but definitely a cooler option. That alone makes it a better model over the original one, in my opinion, but just wanted to show that. There we have our base for Tactical Cube 001. Love these giant bases and their 360-degree arc on there. And then we have our generic Borg Tactical Cube. Overall, it's a really cool, another expansion for Borg players out there. Being that it's an OP prize, I'm kind of glad there isn't anything absolutely must-have in here. Data's pretty good, and the maturation chamber is pretty good. Other than that, there isn't anything that's terribly die-hard must-have. The cutting beam, the Borg missile, and the tractor beam are all reprints. The interplexing beacon's okay. This Borg Queen honestly isn't as good as the ones we already have. So all that together, definitely nothing that is a must-have. However, if you're a Borg fan, there's enough here to warrant trying to pick one up if you didn't win one, if you can get it at a decent price. Always nice to have more options out there. Anyway, that's about it for this one, and I will see you in the next video.